Hello everyone, I hope your day's going well, and welcome to this episode of Crambush's Guide. Last episode, we finished our felt puppet, and we're almost ready to animate it. So, if you're ready, I think we can get started. Alright, watch closely. So the first thing you gotta do is move... Whoa, no. You can't just jump in like that. Alright? Do you even know what you're doing? Do you even know how to start this? Do you even know what animation is? Do you know what you need? Do you know how to light things? Do you even know how to use the camera? If you answered no to these or any other life questions, then you're gonna need to get prepared before you just throw yourself into everything without proper knowledge, Sonny Jim. If you answered yes to these questions, well, watch along anyway. It might be fun. Or not. I don't know. So, this episode will just focus on what animation actually is, and how stop-motion animation differs from other types of animation, like drawn, CG, or even Flash. Let's do it! First question, what is animation? Well, animation is basically made up of tons and tons of pictures, or frames, that are strung together and played at a high speed to fool you into thinking that things in the pictures are actually moving, much like any video or film really. Except the difference between video and animation is that an animation isn't being captured in real time by a camera. You need to draw or capture each frame manually over and over and over until it's finally done. Nothing on screen is moving of its own accord, not even cloth or hair. Someone actually had to move that by hand. Usually the frame rate of an animation, or the number of pictures in a given span of time, is around 24 frames per second at most, and 12 frames per second at least. Anything more is pretty unnecessary, and anything less, well, starts to look more like a really boring slideshow. That being said, that means that 24 images are either drawn, shot, or generated just to make up 1 second of animation. So how many is that for a minute? Ugh. What about an hour? Oh god! Anyway, this isn't about how much work goes into making an animation, this is about how to do the work itself. So let's get back to the stop motion stuff, since you know the title, it says this is Crambush's Guide to Stop Motion, and not like whittling or something, because we all know I'm not very good at that. Let's map out some key differences between stop motion and other forms of animation. Now, I don't claim to be an expert in any of these kinds. I've done a bit of drawn and CG, and I've never even used Flash, but these are the differences as I understand them. There might be more, I don't know. So in drawn or traditional animation, you essentially have to draw each frame from scratch. You usually have drawings of any characters to use for reference, but really every frame that goes into the animation is drawn from scratch. Usually the frames that are drawn first are the keyframes, which are the main frames of the action taking place. These may be the first and last frame of the action, and maybe the middle frame afterwards. This helps to keep all the proportions and sizes of the objects as intact as possible, and then the animator goes and draws the in-betweens to fill in the action and make it nice and smooth and buttery. If you screw up on a frame, you can just go back and erase the mistake, and it'll be all set. In some cases, if an action is repeating itself, or you're short on time, you can recycle the frames. You can see this if you watch a character on like SpongeBob or something talking. From what I've noticed, it's usually just the lip sync going on, maybe a blink or two, and then a head bob to keep the character alive. Look out for it if you want it next time you're watching cartoons. Next is CG. In computer animation, everything is modeled and animated on the computer. Because, I mean, it's computer animation. If it would be called computer animation if everything wasn't on the computer now, would it? Once those objects and characters are modeled, they can be used over and over again as many times as you like. Like drawn animation, keyframes are probably laid out beforehand and all that, but instead of drawing out the character over and over, you just have to position the character model each time. A lot like stop motion. But this time you have the option to use tweening, which fills in frames between the keyframes for you. Oh, happy day! And since you can scroll back and forth through every single frame in the entire animation, you can go back and fix whatever you want. Oh, joy! But, and you may not agree with me, to me computer animation sometimes feels a little too perfect. And when I see a computer animation, I don't really think about the time and effort that went into making it as much. I mean, I should, because obviously a lot of time and effort went into it. A human being put their time into it, but it doesn't show that much. Just because everything's nice and polished. But I don't know, I might be wrong, it's just something I wanted to say. Anyway, on to Flash. There's not really anything new to say about Flash. It's sort of a combination of traditional and computer animation, since you can draw every frame if you want, but you do have the options of tweening and manipulating the objects themselves a bit, like squishing them or stretching them or something like that. Finally, on to our good old friend stop motion animation. So, like computer animation, as I said, you usually only model characters and objects once. Well, unless they eventually break or you need multiple copies at one time. You also don't really have the option to use keyframes or tweening or going back to fix something. You can only animate straight ahead, frame by frame. And if you screw anything up, you go right back to the beginning and start from there. There are some exceptions to this, like replacement animation, which we'll get into, but for the most part, that's how it is. Now, after that being said, you might be thinking, why would anyone want to animate in stop motion when all the other kinds are so much less risky and stressful? Well, there's some sort of love for everything on the screen being real. Like, you can be sure that all the characters are actual puppets that exist somewhere in the world, and they have real-world limitations, and since they were made by hand, they're imperfect. And they were hand-animated by an imperfect human in an imperfect way, which, I don't know. It's more inviting than letting a computer do a lot of the work for you, at least to me. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean computers aren't involved in the process nowadays. Next episode, we will focus on the program Dragonframe and how it helps in the animation process. And we will also go over any other equipment you may need to get a few steps closer to actually doing a thing. Woohoo! Alright, that's all of the key differences between each kind of animation and what animation is. So that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for the next part, and I'll see you in the future. Thanks for watching, and take care. Bye-bye.